Today, our nation marks the passing of 400,000 people. That was yesterday. 400,000 people died. But today marks 1 year since our first knowledge of this pandemic. And what did we learn this morning? We learned this morning that the Trump administration had no real plan for the production and distribution of the vaccine, just another in a series of their terrible, ineffective approach to it. From the start, in denial, delay, distortion, calling it a hoax, and now we find that they didn't even have a plan. As we go forward, though, we see immediately that President Biden has put forth a plan to crush the coronavirus. You know what that is. Yesterday, he talked about it in his executive actions when he talked about wearing masks, distancing, science-based approaches. Today, he'll sign further orders. My understanding is to use the Defense Production Act to speed up PPE delivery, to expand testing, treatment, and public health workforce that we need, and launch a vaccination campaign. All of this to more safely open up schools and businesses, improve health equity, something that the Republicans would just erase from any bill, addressing the disparity in treatment and testing, and therefore the disparity in incidence of COVID-19 in communities of color. As we salute these actions, we're getting ready for a COVID relief package. We'll be working on that as we go. As you probably have seen, Mr. Hoyer announced that as we work on these issues, we won't be back in session until the beginning of February, another week, February 1st, is it, or 2nd? And but we'll be doing our committee work all next week so that we are completely ready to go to the floor when we come back. And then again, the COVID proposals from the administration build on many of the initiatives that were in our packages all along. It's what the people need, what the country needs to crush the virus, put money in the pockets of the American people, and honor our heroes. We're talking largely about executive actions, but I just mentioned that one bill, COVID package. We also were pleased to see the president the administration come forward with an immigration proposal. We're pleased that in the House, Linda Sanchez will be taking the lead, Senator Menendez in the Senate. It has the basic principles that we've talked about all along, and we'll see what the timetable is on that. Today, we are in session to vote on the Austin waiver. It is a waiver so that General Lloyd Austin can serve as Secretary of Defense. As I have said, General Austin is a highly qualified and well-respected leader with over 40 years of decorated service. He brings a great understanding of the challenges facing our nation's defenses and the sacrifice of our men and women in uniform and their families. Once the waiver is approved, I feel confident that the Senate will confirm the general as Secretary of Defense. Civilian control of the military is not an issue for us. It is a value. It is a principle. And we are so pleased that unlike the Trump administration, the Biden administration not only allowed but encouraged the general to come and present his views, which is happening right now in the Armed Services Committee. So again, very happy time. I'm very proud of our members. Right before I came here, I was in a session that was made available for members and staff about the trauma of what happened on January 6th. Talk about physical trauma, psychological trauma, vicarious trauma, and the rest. When the press came saw my office and the rest and asked about things that were stolen, glass that was broken, just violation of the property there. I really said, that's important. I respect the Speaker's office and the accoutrement of history that is there, but I'm more concerned about the damage that they did to our staff, to our colleagues in the Congress, to the custodial staff in the Capitol of the United States. That is damage. That is damage that must be addressed. The resilience that we want to convey, we tried to do that night by coming right back, opening up the session of Congress, proceeding with the business at hand, the counting of the Electoral College votes to ascertain that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were president and vice president of the United States. But that was one aspect of resilience. So many members felt their lives threatened. The uncertainty of it all contributed to the trauma. This is something that everyone in the country should take a measure of how they reacted to this. But let us all pray for the resilience that our country is famous for and that our people need to have as we go forward. And that one other part of that is that we will be, in the next few days, when I'll be talking with the managers as to when the Senate will be ready for the trial of the then President of the United States for his role in instigating an insurrection on the Capitol of the United States, on our democracy, to undermine the will of the people. Very clear has been on this path for a while, but just that day, he roused the troops. He urged them on to fight like hell. He sent them on their way to the Capitol. He called upon lawlessness. He showed a path to the Capitol, and the lawlessness took place.
Q&A, by the way, is where we get some good insights usually.
Over and above all of the other statements he had made before. So in any event, he's asking, I'm not going to be telling you when it is going, but we had to wait for the Senate to be in session. They've now informed us they're ready to receive. The question is, are there questions about how a trial will proceed? But we are ready. With that, I'm pleased to take any questions. What do you got, Jack?
Speaker, good morning. You were talking about security here at the Capitol, and I know you're very concerned about that. Do you have any evidence, or were you briefed in any capacity about? Do you have any evidence, or were you briefed in any capacity about these allegations of reconnaissance tours that some have talked about? And if there's not proof to that, some of your members on your side have said that some of the Republican members who were alleged to have given these have denied that they've been.
As all of those things, as you indicate, you have to have evidence of what has happened. There is no question that there were members in this body who gave aid and comfort to those with the idea that they were embracing a lie perpetrated by the President of the United States, that the election did not have legitimacy. These people believe it. They believe the President of the United States, his words have weight. They weigh a ton, in fact. So that's one thing. In terms of what you suggest, everything has to be based on evidence, and that remains to be seen. In that regard, I'm very pleased that we will have an after-action review that will review many aspects of what happened. If people did aid and abet, there will be more than just comments from their colleagues here. There'll be prosecution if they aided and abetted an insurrection in which people died. But again, as Chad, as you rightfully ask, that is something that you have to collect the evidence for as you proceed, A. B, I'm very excited because you asked about security here, that General Russell Honore has agreed to take a big view of the security here. We will have an after action review. There will be a commission, all of that. But immediately, actually before the weekend, he agreed to take a look at the security infrastructure, the interagency relationships, the fact that he is so familiar with the capital regional security aspects of it. We believe that we are in very good hands with his taking the look that he has and inviting experts in the field to give their.
I have to say, I'm surprised there isn't like a panic room style button they can press. Have you seen the movie Panic Room? Big steel door.
Point on the timing for the articles of impeachment.
No?
Okay.
And it'll be soon, as I said, you'll be the first to know.
Thank you. And also, you mentioned Leader Schumer becoming the Senate Majority Leader.
Yes, very exciting.
You have worked a long time with both Leader Schumer and Leader McConnell. What is your advice for Leader Schumer now that he is in the majority as he confronts Leader McConnell, who let us know yesterday he still sees, even though Democrats have a sweep of government now with the House, Senate, and White House, Leader McConnell still sees, an important role for Republicans as, in the.
So you're asking what advice I would give to Leader Schumer?
ma'am.
You know him. I wouldn't think of giving him any advice on how to deal with the Senate. Not at all. Nor does he give me advice on how to run the House.
And in dealing with Leader McConnell?
No, well, again, that's a dynamic that is very different from the House. I would say, though, for both of us, we have a responsibility to find bipartisanship where we can, to find our common ground where we can. We have that as not only a goal, but a responsibility. When we can't, we must stand our ground. That's Thomas Jefferson, standing the ground like that. But it is, if we're talking about what the country needs to crush the virus. Whatever, it hasn't happened yet. The country needs to end the economic crisis that we're in. We need to do more to do that. And one way to do both is to help our heroes, our healthcare workers, our police and fire, our first responders, our sanitation, transportation, food workers, our teachers. They are on the front line, risking their lives to save lives in some cases, and on the verge of losing their jobs. So it's about a case that we make for what the country needs, that hopefully we can have a bipartisan agreement. Yes,
Thank you. You mentioned unity and the message of unity that came out yesterday. Are you at all concerned about moving forward with an impeachment trial could undercut that message and alienate Republican supporters of the president?
No.
Why?
No, I'm not worried about that. The fact is, the President of the United States committed an act of incitement of insurrection. I don't think it's very unifying to say, oh, let's just forget it and move on. That's not how you unify. Joe Biden said it beautifully. If you're going to unite, you must remember. And we must bring this in. And look, that's our responsibility, to uphold the integrity of the Congress of the United States. That's our responsibility, to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. And that is what we will do. And just because he's now gone, thank God, that you don't say to a president, do whatever you want in the last months of your administration. You're going to get a get out of jail card free because people think we should make nice and forget that people died here on January 6th, that the attempt to undermine our election, to undermine our democracy, to dishonor our Constitution. No, I don't see that at all. I think that would be harmful to unity.
Madam Speaker, a year ago, in the context of the last impeachment trial, you said that you cannot have a trial without documents and witnesses.
That's right.
I'm wondering what kind of trial you'd like to see your impeachment managers put forward. And is that part of what you're waiting for, some kind of guidance from the Senate about how they'll conduct themselves before you send that article over?
Well, let me just say this. We were talking about two different things. We're talking about a phone call that the president had as one part of it, that people could say, I need evidence. This year, the whole world bore witness to the president's incitement, to the execution of his call to action, and the violence that was used. So I believe it or not, don't take part in the deliberations of preparing for the trial. That's up to the managers. But I do see a big difference between something that we all witnessed versus what information you might need to substantiate an article of impeachment based on, large part, on a call that the president made and described as perfect. It was perfectly unconstitutional. This is different, but again, it's up to them to decide how we go forward, when we go forward. It will be soon. I don't think it will be long, but we must do it.
So Speaker Pelosi, just a quick question. What's the status of HR 1 right now?
HR 1 is, the status of HR 1 is that it is in an exalted position. It is a priority for us. The Senate has S6, I think is what theirs is, S6. This is very important, and I thank you for asking about it, because this is really central to the integrity of our government.
It's election integrity in that.
Dark special interest money in politics, to give more leverage to small donors and grassroots activists, to implement what John Lewis put forth in ending voter suppression. That is what January 6th was about as well, voter suppression. And the list goes on. That is, we have pulled out HR 4, which was part of HR 1, the Voting Rights Act, but that's very much a part of the spirit of that. The reason we are doing them separately is HR 6 needs to have, and we have provided it with hearings all over the country. Marcia Fudge, now soon to be Madam Secretary, Terry Sewell, John Lewis, bless his heart, when he was here, all were part of establishing that record for HR 4, the Voting Rights Act, for now. So we're optimistic. We're going to pass both of them, and it will give confidence to the American people that their voice is as important as anyone's, that big money, which suffocates the airwaves, is no longer going to be the order of the day. And I thank John Sarbanes for his tremendous leadership over a long period of time. John Larson was doing it earlier, now John Sarbanes, both of them. And what's important about it is that it gives people the hope that, yes, we can have clean air and clean water and address climate crisis, because big dark money will not dominate the policy. Yes, we can have gun violence prevention, because big dark special interest gun lobbyist money will not dominate the process. We in the Democratic Party have advanced these. They have been stopped, as you know, on the other side. But we hope now that the more the public knows, the better we will be in terms of policy. And I'll conclude by saying something you've heard me say again and again. Public sentiment is everything. With it, you can accomplish almost everything. Without it, practically nothing. Abraham Lincoln. And now that we have the bully pulpit, and the president can explain to public more clearly, because the president has a bigger audience, that the public will know what is at stake, how they can weigh in. And it won't be a question of the press saying, oh, they're bickering or this, that. No, we're not. We're not bickering. We have a very major difference of opinion as to how we honor the Constitution. We hope that we can find common ground on it, because it's very important. And again, I'll further close. Wasn't it beautiful when President Biden quoted what President Lincoln said when he signed the Emancipation Proclamation on New Year's Day, 1865. It was in his soul. It was in his being. And Biden, of course, said what he is setting out to do is, again, in his soul and in his very being. Thank you all very much. What a difference a day makes. Thank you.
Okay. Wow. So what did we hear here? Let's do the usual quick recap. And yeah, I know the lights are all messed up. The power went out, and this is what I'm stuck with because I haven't been able to change it yet. All right, so let's just quickly recap what Nancy Pelosi here said. I think Kevin McCarthy is actually supposed to be speaking momentarily, so it would not be bad if we could switch over to Kevin McCarthy. So stay tuned for just 1 second. Let's see if we can get Kevin McCarthy up here. I'm pretty sure he's okay. He's scheduled for about 13 minutes from now. So I don't know. It might make sense to just do some Q&A and wait for Kevin McCarthy because that's pretty close. So let's do a quick recap of what was just said and some hints that she dropped, and then we'll do Kevin McCarthy. So, and I'll also update the title to say Kevin McCarthy is coming up next. So Nancy Pelosi's done, but we're going to wait to go to Kevin McCarthy now. Every time I do a Democrat live stream, I swear the dislikes are horrible. Nancy Pelosi and Kevin McCarthy. And Kevin McCarthy speak. Live plans to say, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Good. All right, so here's what we got from Nancy Pelosi. So basically, the trial remains in limbo right now, the impeachment trial. Nancy Pelosi has not initiated the trial proceedings yet, and she would do that by sending the articles of impeachment over to the Senate, which a lot of us thought Nancy Pelosi was just going to plow this right over to the Senate. And that would potentially delay COVID relief. So you've got this really interesting dynamic going on where the Senate right now is trying to plow through Biden's confirmations, his cabinet confirmations. So Biden's probably like, hey, look, y'all can hold your trial. Just don't screw me up. Give me all my cabinet staff so I could deal with what's really important right now, which is the vaccine campaign, PPE. We're going to hear from Biden's team about the Defense Production Act today, and COVID relief. That's what's really important right now. And Biden is very likely putting a lot of pressure on Schumer and Pelosi to say, please just wait, get my people confirmed so I can work. Because the last thing we want to do is you guys do an impeachment trial, I don't get my cabinet, and I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs waiting to get my cabinet. So my guess is the day after Joe Biden's cabinet confirmations are made in the Senate, we will see Nancy Pelosi send the articles of impeachment over to the Senate. Now, the House, we just heard, is actually going to be out until the beginning of February. So let's see here if we can look around here. So they're going to be gone. Let's see. Actually, the first is a Monday. So they're coming back in February to go back into session. That means the House is going to be gone for the next 6 business days. They're not going to be in session. But this is what we expected. We expected the next COVID relief package to really be a February event. I have to say, Nancy Pelosi this morning, or just now, reiterated something that's actually pretty important. She reiterated the fact that it's something that Schumer said yesterday, and I mentioned in a video like, this is quite interesting that Schumer like leaned over to McConnell and kind of almost bluntly said this to him, but said we will be bipartisan where we can be. And he had a little emphasis on that, maybe not as blunt as that, but Nancy Pelosi this morning said, I'll be sending the articles of impeachment over soon, didn't provide us a date, but then says, we have responsibilities to find bipartisanship where we can. And she reiterates that as well. She says, where we can't, we must stand our ground, and says this is like a Thomas Jefferson quote. Jeffersonians. Anyway, this is big because it's sending that clear signal that, hey, look, Mitch McConnell, don't worry. If you don't want to work with us, we're doing this $1.9 trillion stimulus package, whether you like it or not. And the thing that comes with that is, there's a lot of talk about are Democrats going to go with the 51 the 51 vote option, the budget reconciliation process, and everything we're seeing. The answer here is, unless Republicans just roll over and go, yeah, sure, we're fine with 1.9. That's exactly what they're going to do. Bernie Sanders is saying, don't worry, we can use budget recon to do the minimum wage. We'll plow it through. We've got the press secretary yesterday saying, what do you mean negotiate this down? We're not negotiating down $1.9 trillion. This is what we need. These are the components we need, and we're not about to cut anything out. So Nancy Pelosi then, of course, reiterates we need to crush the virus. Says that Trump's plan is lacking. I don't know if this is just politics. When the new administration comes in, they look at the House and they're like, seriously, this is what you left us with. It's a mess. She does say the president has a bigger audience. That could be a slam at Trump in terms of saying, hey, he got more votes. Or it could just be saying that the president has more of an audience than Congress, and now Democrats control the bully pulpit, which the bully pulpit is just the president's ability to stand and speak to address the nation and say, we need to wear masks. We got to do this. We got to do this. And that you can actually do a lot of work with words rather than all the action that's necessary. Action's always necessary as well, but words can help as well, is what they're suggesting. So Kevin McCarthy speaks in about 7 minutes. So we are going to stand by for Kevin McCarthy. He will be here soon. Additionally, what I'm going to do for the next few minutes here is I want to talk briefly here about the PPP and other stimulus questions. So if you have other stimulus questions, ask them here in the chat. And then we will address Kevin McCarthy's live stream in just a moment when that comes up. The first thing that I want to say with the PPP, I'm getting a ton of questions about the PPP. A good place to go where before I'm going to make another PPP video and more detailed, but a good place to go if you have specific questions, if you're not in this live chat right now, is just go to Discord, metkevin.com/Discord, ask your PPP questions there. But I highly encourage you apply for the programs that exist. Rental relief is still a disaster in many parts of the country. Miami, Los Angeles, Ventura County, places I briefly looked at yesterday, rental relief is still not up, which is honestly disgusting in some sense, because it's been more than 3 weeks now. And the fact that they can't figure out how to get an application portal up on a simple Splash website and then let everybody know in a town or city or county that their programs are up blows my mind. But then again, that is what we're dealing with, the government right now. So, but as far as the PPP, a lot of questions relate to, hey, look, I worked partially in 2019. I had some self-employment income in 2019. How do I prove this? Proving your income is the easy part. It's on your tax return. If you didn't claim your income on your taxes, then it becomes very difficult to say, oh yeah, let me apply for the PPP. But if you paid taxes, all they're looking for is that you say, I got paid money and here's where I paid taxes on it. If you can prove that, these banks are begging to do your PPP loans. I have random bankers reaching out to me. They're like, hey, we saw you inquired about the Main Street lending program. I wanted to make a video about it, and I did make videos about it. And they're like, but we can now offer you the PPP. And these are not like automated messages. They're like, hey, Kevin, blah, blah, blah about the Main Street lending program. Can we help you with the PPP round 2? Like, I'm not taking the PPP round 2, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting that these lenders are like begging to do these loans. It's fascinating. Okay, so again, Kevin McCarthy is going to be speaking in 5 minutes. So we are, 5 minutes plus, because they tend to be behind. So let's do a little bit of Q&A here quickly. Let's see what questions we have. I got an email from the SBA saying my EIDL is being processed. I filled out my app last summer. Yes, congratulations. That is awesome. Karen on the dislike button. Oh dear. That is really good. I like hearing that the SBA is processing your application from the last round. That is awesome. So let's see here. Yep, the wall colors are definitely different. I gotta fix that. The power went out. Okay, what else here? I made 6K. So Marissa says, oh, see, look at this. Okay, here's a fascinating idea. And just give me 1 second here. I want to pull this up really quick. Okay. So here's the fascinating thing about the PPP. And I'm going to be gone. I'm going to keep talking, but this will be up for just 1 second. So the fascinating thing about the PPP is with the PPP if you worked like the last few months in 2019, I would divide the last few months in 2019 and use that as my income. So here's an example. One second. So the example to consider would be, hey, if so you worked in October and November of 2019. The way I would apply for the PPP is I would say, okay, so I worked 2019, the last 3 months basically, and you made $6,000. Well, I would divide that by, I would try probably to divide it by 2, the 2 months you worked, but you did work those 3 months in full, depends on your situation, but divide that by 2 or 3 and say, hey, that was my monthly pay. Here it is on my tax return showing that I made the income. Please provide me the PPP for 2.5 times, my monthly pay. And so it could be a great way for you to get, in this case, if you worst case divided by 3, that's $2,000. $2,000 times 2.5, you could get $5,000 of PPP money for free. Like, why not try? And that's just round 1. Do round 1, and then if for whatever reason you ended up let's try to get this up here. You ended up having an economic decline in 2020 because of COVID, or you just had to stop doing your side hustle. Well, guess what that means? That means you're applying for round 2. That's the way I would do that. I would not leave any of this stimulus money on the table. Not at all. Take the money. Take the money. Okay, I want to make just a very quick note. This is a little side from stimulus here while we wait for Leader McCarthy to come up and speak. He's supposed to be up in 3 minutes. Link in the chat here is asking if he should get a Tesla solar roof or a metal roof. He has a composition shingle roof that does not need repair or replacement. I would not do anything. I would not spend any money on that. If you want solar panels, lease the solar panels from Tesla. Okay, back to the stimulus question. So PPP, get it. And the way I just explained this example here, it's literally free money for you. Like $5,000 in this example we just did is way, way more than obviously the stimulus checks are. So, okay, give me 1 second here. I will be back in like 20 seconds here. I do want to get Kevin McCarthy up. 1 second. Okay, that's on. Okay, all right. So we've got Kevin McCarthy ready. We are just waiting for them to begin their stream now. Let's do some more Q&A on stimulus while we chat in the meantime. We talked about Nancy Pelosi's press conference already, gave a breakdown of the latest here. Let's see, okay. All right, what questions do we have while we wait for McCarthy? Questions. Can you get the new rental assistance if you got CARES Act assistance? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing that forbids you from getting the new rental assistance, and I highly, highly encourage you apply for that as well. There's really no reason not to apply for all of the assistance you can get. Seriously, get the PPP. The EIDL we can't apply for anymore. We got screwed. Get all the rental assistance you can. Absolutely. Okay, sorry. Give me 1 second again here. Yeah, with the power having gone out, I'm a little discombobulated. I will be back in 15 seconds here. 1 sec. Okay. All right, I'm back. All right, more Q&A while we wait for Leader McCarthy. It is 11:30 now, so he should be speaking momentarily. Let's see here. Yep. It's actually been a little bit of time since we've had a McCarthy briefing, so fascinated to see what he ends up sharing with us in terms of the future. I mean, he's the minority leader, and now he has to work with, he's the minority leader over in the House, and now he has to work with the minority leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell. And so we'll see what kind of stimulus insights we get. Should be fascinating. Confirm, let's see here, Leader McCarthy. Okay, they just opened up the stream portal, so let's make sure we get this going here. All right, other questions in the meantime? Yeah, right now we are just looking at, I'll show it to you. There we go. So we will hang out and just chat while we wait for McCarthy. So, Sherry, thank you so much for becoming a member. That's awesome. Appreciate that. Kevin, can an adult who's not a dependent but hasn't worked for a few years get a stimulus if the last time they filed was in 2018. Yeah, there's no requirement that you are employed. So you might have to file your 1040, which is basically your tax return. But if you have no income, most of your stuff's just going to be zero. So you could just Google IRS recovery rebate, and it'll give you the instructions for how to do that. And on the second page of your 1040, you'll fill out your information on what recovery rebate to claim. So that's that would be the way to knock that out. Okay, Kevin McCarthy is probably 2 minutes away here. Give me 1 second again. I'm sorry I keep getting up, but I have to. Sorry, 1 second. I'll be right back, and then we will do some more Q&A, and then Kevin McCarthy will be here momentarily. All right. So while we wait for Kevin McCarthy, let's continue to do a stimulus Q&A. Any kind of questions that you have, there we go. Any kind of questions that you have, go ahead and ask. Glad McConnell is gone. He's not gone. He's still going to have a lot of power. You are not done with McConnell. And I look, he has substantially less power, right? He has substantially been modested, if that's a word. But yes, he's still going to be required for a lot of bills and work. As much as we can use the budget recon process, which is 51 votes, they could use that 9 times. As much as we enjoy that, we're probably not going to be able. Oh, yeah, we'll do this. We're probably not going to see his power fade completely unless he's out of office. So, but Kentucky, was it Kentucky? I'm pretty sure it's from Kentucky. They just reelected him, whichever state he's from. Sometimes there are funny comments on this. Let's pull this up in the meantime while we do some Q&A. Let's just see what they're listening to.
Supply shortfalls, just some of the 10 executive orders we're expecting today from the Biden administration. Back to your phone calls, getting your reaction to.
I love these phone calls. Like while we wait for Kevin McCarthy, these phone calls are always hilarious. Well, maybe not always hilarious, but some of them are really hilarious. People get really passionate.
Happy New Year. I'm calling just to say that I'm very happy and pleased. I don't know if I could have survived another 4 years if Trump had come into office. I was very disappointed.
They do pick Democrats, independents, and then Republicans. They kind of go in order.
Try to look above the noise and think that maybe there was something redeemable about his actions that he could do. But I realized, especially after the January 6th devastation, that he was just a man that was totally in for himself, didn't care about anything.
Okay, she's just going to talk about Trump here. I'm less interested in that right now, so let me just do a little bit more Q&A. My husband used to work for Vivint, and he always tells people to go with Tesla. Tesla's so much better than Vivint. So much better than Vivint. 100%. Good. I'm glad to hear that. That's awesome. So, yes, if you did not get PPP round 1, and you're thinking, okay, Kevin, you finally convinced me. I'm going to go apply for PPP round 1. Yes, you can still apply for round 1. Do it. Apply. Seriously, just do it. It is free money. And you're going to be like, Kevin, why didn't I do this last year? And then I'm going to be like, I know. It is so good because see that $5,000 example we gave you while we wait for McCarthy here. Remember how I said that the one example we did, they could get $5,000 in basically free money as long as they pay themselves with that, right? For payroll. $5,000 is also going to give you a tax benefit of probably somewhere around at least another $1,000. Obviously, everybody's tax situation is different, but I mean, that's now $6,000 of benefits you're getting. The PPP is, do not let that go away. Even if you sell crap on eBay on the side, and I don't mean to call it crap. You know what I mean? You sell stuff on eBay on the side. Do it. All right. Can I get a PPP loan while I'm on unemployment? Yes, you can get a PPP loan when you are on unemployment. However, once you start taking your PPP money for pay, for the 8 weeks of pay, you have to pause unemployment. But then if unemployment is still going afterwards, you can go back on unemployment. So you can do both. Yeah, we touched on rental assistance a little bit, still waiting. And we are waiting for Kevin McCarthy here. Kevin McCarthy should be up 6 minutes ago. So let's see. Yeah, if you don't qualify for round 2 because your income went up, that's okay. But I would say go for round 1. Yeah. Yeah, right, because you didn't have that economic decline. That's okay. Yeah, go for round 1. Not a stimulus question, but is there any grant program for low-income homeowners to help them remodel their home? Check local community development corporation. So whatever county you're in, type in like Los Angeles Community Development Corporation or something like that.
Enjoying the fruits of our labor. You know, when you sit there and hand out bags of candy and free Cokes, that only lasts for so long. You know, he's only going to teach. For the most part, he's not really even the president. To me, he didn't get in legally. You know, he cheated. So, I mean, to me, I won't recognize.
These are callers on C-SPAN. This is obviously a Republican.
Reporters won't. Why don't we go ahead and have an investigation to find out they're scared of doing that, because once they find out that how they cheated getting into office.
James, we showed a story. We showed a story about a report of President Trump considering forming his own political party, a Patriot Party. Would you leave the Republican Party to join a President Trump's Patriot Party?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you something else too. I'm ready for when Texas goes and recedes from the Union, I'm ready for our state to do the same thing.
All right, that's James.
Oh my gosh.
Buffalo, Kentucky. This is Sandy out of Baltimore City, Maryland.
The guy wants to leave the Union and join Donald Trump's Patriot Party. I mean, hey, you know what? Hats off. The guy's loyal to Trump, you know? Good. I mean, he's got his beliefs and he's loyal to him. So good for him.
Last caller. Unfortunately, and I don't want to.
These are just people calling in to C-SPAN while we wait for McCarthy, by the way. He's going to talk on, plans.
Definitely didn't realize what they were getting into. And, definitely there is probably a lot of people that are loyal to Trump and not Republican. He should have never. Anyway, I don't even want to go down that way. Yesterday was.
She gets cut off.
I guess it's still good morning. This week, the United States completed the process of transitioning to a new president. I want to again congratulate President Biden and Vice President Harris. I want to also thank President Trump and Vice President Pence for their service to our country. Also acknowledge the many achievements that their administration was able to achieve. In just 4 years, we were able to build the greatest American economy we've seen in a generation. Strengthen our military, passed historic peace deals, secured our southern border, and ratified the United States-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. While there was change of the political party in the White House, the problems that we need to address still impact America. Our Republican, Democrat, and independents alike need to work together. President Biden takes over at a time when America needs to get back to work, get their kids back to school, and get every American vaccinated who wants one. This is an immediate national priority. So we must ask if the plans from the Biden administration are helping the American people who need it most. Are we helping businesses reopen and getting America back to work? Are we helping students get back into the classroom after many and millions of these kids have been learning from behind computers for almost nearly a year?
Yep.
Are we helping individuals, especially our most at-risk population, gain access to a vaccine? That is why I was disappointed to see within hours of assuming office, the new administration was more interested in helping illegal immigrants than helping our own citizens. More interested in virtue signals to the climate activists and supporting the union workers who were building the Keystone Pipeline. And more interested in appeasing the WHO than getting to the bottom of how China released this virus to the world in the first place. In fact, just this week, a panel established by the WHO itself said the organization failed to act quickly at the start of the pandemic. Instead of demanding leadership change and reforms, unfortunately, it's the wrong signal that the Biden administration is rewarding failure. These are the wrong priorities at the wrong time. Americans need our help at home, and that's where our focus must remain. That means Congress needs to step up as well. But instead, I just heard the majority party is now telling us to go home. One day into a new administration. One day. Well, they're the majority in the House, and they just became the majority in the Senate, and they were just sworn in the White House. They tell us to go home. already canceling scheduled work week next week. I can promise you this. When Republicans are in the majority, we will not take the first week off. We'll keep the commitment to America that we promised, and that's exactly what we'll do. Republicans are here ready to work, ready to make sure that we get business back open again. We get kids back in school, and we get a vaccine to every person who wants one across America. To me, that is a unity agenda. To me, that's the priority that Americans want to see coming out of Washington. You can't achieve that if you tell people to go home and not work. You can't achieve that if your focus is more on the Paris Accord, ending a Keystone pipeline. Those are not the achievements that I think America wants to see out of Washington and unity. With that, let's take some questions.
McCarthy, now your conference right now seems to be like in a complete split because you have the Freedom Caucus members are already circulating a petition to call on your conference chairwoman to resign from her post, and you have the Democrats who are calling for a censure of at least 2 members right now. Will your conference come together to stand behind those 2 members who are being called on to be censured? And where are you right now as far as the leadership is concerned, since there is a split as far as you guys are concerned on impeachment? Is there going to be any unity whatsoever going forward into this Congress?
You know, what's different within our party and maybe with others, people have difference of opinion. We will have a conference next week. We won't air it to the public, but we'll answer the questions everybody has. This is the same leadership team with the ranking members and others that came 5 seats away from winning a majority when everybody in America thought we were going to lose 20 seats. Yes, we allow differences of opinion inside our conference. They're welcomed. But I think there's questions that need to be answered, style in which things were delivered. At the end of the day, we will unify because our policies are right, which will unify us around. Do we have growing pains? Yes, we will. But we will do it in our private manner of a conference that we hold every time, and we'll have it next week. Yes, sir.
Liz Cheney to remain as conference chair or no?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Let's even change questions this year.
Well, after the rioters came into the Capitol on January 6th, you voted to overturn the results in Pennsylvania and Arizona. You also signed on to that Texas lawsuit to invalidate the elections. You waited until a couple of weeks ago to declare that Joe Biden won the election. Given the violence that we saw, do you regret the role you played anyway in sowing doubt about the election?
Look, I denounce any violence. Denounce it that day, denounce it now. I denounce it in the summer. I denounce what happened last night in Portland and Seattle as well. I'm very consistent. What I voted on wasn't to overturn an election because it wouldn't. It would not overturn. What I signed on to amicus was the exact same question that you did, a constitutional question about did a legislature have the right or did the legislature actually move through to make any changes? This is the same thing that has happened in the last 3 presidential elections. It's the same thing that Nancy Pelosi said on the floor when she said, this is democracy, we should debate it. It's different than when Jim Clyburn voted to overturn Ohio, which you'd say, because that would change the outcome of the presidential election. So let's be very clear on what we did. If mine was based upon policy and principle, yes, I would stay the course. I've always denounced whatever individuals did here, what they did in the summer, and what they did last night. That's un-American, that's undemocratic, and anybody involved with that should be prosecuted. I've been very, very clear about that from day one. So thank you.
Why didn't you come earlier and say that the election was free and fair?
Go right ahead.
As a follow-up to his question,
Yes.
Are you concerned about fundraising this quarter now that dozens of corporate PACs have said they're not going to support people who objected to the Electoral College results?
Not at all. Yes.
To follow up on that, do you think that members of Congress who had any role in what happened on January 6th should be prosecuted?
Well, if any member participated in breaking law or rioting that way, yes. I think anybody should be held accountable to that process. I do not.
Come on, COVID questions.
That has done that.
Stimulus.
This is why I called for last week after this happened, a bipartisan commission. We should get to the bottom of this. There are so many questions that need to be answered. There's so many questions that I had personally as a leader. I read in the paper that the FBI, prior to any rally, had information that something was going to happen here and conveyed that to the Capitol Police. I want to know, why was the Republican leader not notified of that? Why was I not notified to make sure we protect? Even though I had House administration attend a meeting where they said they had correct preparation, where they knew the National Guard and others. Was the National Guard called soon enough? Was it brought forward soon enough? Were there reasons why the National Guard maybe wasn't having armed? Is there a reason was something happened from the summer of why they would not be brought up sooner? I have questions about this building, what I was told, what was protected, what doors could not be opened or entered or penetrated. Well, that didn't go through. There's a lot of planning through, and the only way you're going to be able to answer these questions is through a bipartisan commission. So let's get and have all the facts before we accuse anybody of anything, but let's all base it upon the facts and the knowledge that we need to know.
And to follow up on that, Leader McConnell has said that former President Trump and other important people provoke those folks to come to the Capitol. Do you believe that former President Trump provoked?
I don't believe he provoked if you listen to what he said at the rally. Yes, sir.
What role should former President Trump have in the Republican Party going forward?
Look,
He's good at dodging questions.
Going forward, every former president still has a role within their party for the time basis. This president brought a lot of great success within. He brought people to the party that haven't been involved before, and he should continue to engage in that way. But the one thing, I got to ask a question earlier about what should the Republican Party focus, or who should be the leader within the party? The one thing we learned in the last 4 years that President Trump brought forward, that he listened to voices that no one else was hearing on either party. Those are the voices we should continue to hear. And you know what they're saying right now? They're watching an administration that says 11 million illegal immigrants are now going to become citizens. You almost have 11 million Americans who are out of work right now. Who's listening to their voice? Or to the millions of parents out there that want to have their children go back to school to have an education. Who's championing for them? When we signed back up to the WHO without getting any accountability or any answers to why did they lie to the world? Or to the union worker who's building the Keystone Pipeline. Idea that we're going to lower our energy costs, make us stronger around the world, less dependent on the Middle East. That America became energy independent just about a year ago. And why are we moving backwards? Why are we making the cost higher? Those are the people who both parties should be listening to. Those are the things that should be working. So no, when they hear the majority leader and the Speaker of the House say, take the next week off, they probably very concerned about both parties. When they hear that the first actions that we take aren't about getting the economy moving again, they're wondering who's listening in Washington. I'm going to promise you this. We're listening and we'll take action. Yes, sir.
Leader McCarthy, with Democrats now holding the balance of power, what is the future of the Hyde Amendment, which prevents taxpayer funding of abortion? And will you do anything to try to secure the Hyde Amendment?
Yes, but the Hyde Amendment should not just be a Republican issue. It's an American issue. Regardless of where you fall on this position, should taxpayers' money be spent for this? Because you know what? The Hyde Amendment has been agreed to for decades, not just by Republicans, but Republicans and Democrats. I think the individual that's sitting in the White House today had voted for it many times. It'd be interesting if people would change their opinion now. That would seem pretty political to me, instead of being a basis on what your principles stand for. Thank you all very much. I hope you have a great week.
Okay. So what? Okay, I thought there might have been a last minute question there. All right. So what did we really get here? We pretty much got complaining about the Democrats not being in session next week in the House. And this is true. Democrats won't be in session in the House next week. I can only speculate as to why. I believe that Democrats in the House are not going to be in session because the Senate is working on confirmations with for Biden's cabinet. And even though the House might not be in chamber, they could still work on preparing the next COVID relief package with Joe Biden. So oftentimes that's what happens when they leave. Of course, Kevin McCarthy definitely made it sound like that's it. They're going on vacation again. That's pretty normal to get people frustrated. And that's why he said, when we get power back, we're going to do things differently. We're not going to take the first week off. It's a really good political strategy to basically say, vote for me. Look at them. They're taking the first week off. But again, yeah, it is true. The House will not be in session until the beginning of February. Other than that, we got, most of the questions, I'm surprised, from reporters were really geared towards the impeachment, Liz Cheney remaining the chairwoman in the House, which Kevin McCarthy says yes would happen despite, that's GOP conference chairwoman, by the way, that would happen despite her endorsing the impeachment, which is kind of like partially Kevin McCarthy somewhat saying that's okay that she endorsed the impeachment. That's how people are going to interpret this, at least. Of course, Kevin McCarthy spent some more time slamming the administration because Joe Biden did introduce an immigration bill to Congress. He has also been circulating the COVID relief bill, but of course, the Kevin McCarthy picked up on the argument that why are we focusing on illegal immigrants rather than the American people first? I think both are being focused on right now. And I'm not trying to like slam Kevin McCarthy here. I want you to be able to look through the weeds and get a clear message here. So both of those are circulating right now. It's Biden's COVID relief plan, and yes, his path for people who are illegal to earn citizenship. That is at least the way Democrats branded it yesterday when they were talking about it. That this would be a plan for illegal immigrants to earn a path or way to citizenship. So we'll see what that process entails, of course. Let's see, mentions that Republicans are ready to work. Obviously, we want to get businesses open again, schools open again. He actually did not talk about stimulus, really, which is actually interesting because it sends the signal that Republicans don't see stimulus as a priority. And it reiterates again that we're probably going to see the 51 vote option used. Because if Kevin McCarthy was game on stimulus negotiations, we would see talk from Kevin McCarthy about stimulus. By him not addressing stimulus or talking about stimulus, he's really saying, hey, look, if the Democrats are doing stimulus, that's on them. But all we're focused on is opening the country back up, getting schools open again, and getting businesses back to work. So his lack of talking about stimulus is a way of saying stimulus, Democrats' problem. But the Democrats have the control right now, so it's okay. So let's, So I mean, Kevin McCarthy he matters somewhat in that if there are a few defections of Democrats in the House, it'd be nice to have some Republicans to make that up for bills that would require middle passage, basically moderate bills, where if you lose some of the extreme left, you want to pick up some moderate Republicans. And Kevin McCarthy has the power to basically tell those moderate Republicans, do not turn your back on the party. Or he could say nothing and then let those moderate Republicans vote. So, McCarthy has probably the least, he has the least power out of all of the four leaders. You got Pelosi's got a lot of power in the House. Schumer's got a lot of power in the Senate. McConnell's got way more power than McCarthy does. So yeah, less power that he has. Let's see here. Biden should have waited until after the stimulus package passed to do an executive order for the immigration stuff. Regarding DACA. Yeah, I think the DACA thing was honestly something just of massive urgency because people were being deported and he can sign one piece of paper and stop that at least temporarily while they work on legislating. So I think that's kind of the message Biden is sending with that. Let's see, cash for large corporations. Yeah, cash for large corporations is something else. DACA path to citizen is the right thing. No jobs will be taken. Okay, let's see. So these are comments here I'm reading. Exactly. Why do we need to continue? Okay, I'm not sure what your reference is to, Juice. Immigration spurs economic growth. A lot of people argue that. Yeah, that is true. We get a lot of people who argue that. And, usually that has tended in history to be true. More people means more spending, especially people paying taxes. SBA has told me that there is a previous application that was put in under my name business and denies any further applications I've tried to apply for. First app was not me, though. Yeah, well, I would send in a request for reconsideration. So email disastercustomerservice@sba.gov and send in a request for reconsideration and tell them that. That's good. It actually works in your benefit that, hold on. You got to be careful on how you word this one, because if they go, oh, so you didn't apply the first one? Well, applications are closed. You can't apply again. Maybe you want to go from the angle of, since they emailed you, hey, yeah, cool. Can you process my first one? By the way, I just want to verify this is my accurate information. Phone number, address, right? Like, email, maybe go with that direction, and say, I just want to reiterate that this information is correct to make sure there's no fraud or whatever, in case somebody like hijacked your social and your information and applied for you. So, but you could probably hook onto the wagon the fact that you did apparently in their minds apply. May as well. Where's my paper stimulus check? Yeah, the IRS did indicate that they're going to be reissuing some checks. So we'll see when that comes. If they reissued this week, that means we could see paper checks still take another week or so. Let's see here. Okay, let's do a few more questions. So will PPP cover ownership injections? I'm not exactly sure what you mean with ownership injections. Let's see what other questions. More workers means more tax revenues. Yeah, I generally agree with that. There oftentimes too, if you see my father, he got a green card. And when he got his green card, he had to sign something saying, okay, if you're going to get a permanent resident card, you have to sign something saying you will not take public benefits. Like you're never allowed to be on welfare. You come into this country, you want to be legal, you got to pay taxes, and you can get Social Security to the amount that you pay in, but you got to work. That's what he was told back in the 90s. So I don't know how the situation is different now. But, if you look at it that way, okay. Because generally what you don't want is people to get legalized and then not pay taxes, but then, burden the government systems. Now, there are some people who need help, and that's different. And then they're but if you can work, obviously, I think work would be the priority there. So, yeah, let's see. I don't know. There's this question here. We have enough vaccines for everyone. Problem is distribution. I think we've got a double problem right now because there are some states saying, hey, we don't have that backup stockpile. But I do agree the distribution system has been ridiculous. I really thought the military would have been involved in this much more. Solar, is it worth it for a business to look into? It depends how high your electricity bill is. It could be. Possible to get assistance for a new address under second application. Yeah, I would just email them to change your address. We may have, but if you mean a different business, I'd probably not. Let's see. Every other country requires you to show financial means for at least 3 years, so you're not a burden. The USA has the worst immigration policies. I mean, that sounds restrictive. I hear that. Yeah, the US does not make you do that. That I'm aware of, at least. That's interesting. Thank you for pointing that out. McCarthy just trying to rile up the anti-immigration people with the whole DACA thing. Yeah, I mean, McCarthy is riling up his base, and that's okay. I mean, there are a lot of people who really like what McCarthy says because it resonates with their beliefs. They're like, that's damn right. Congress should be working next, right? The House, damn right. Well, we should be focusing on stimulus before some of these other priorities. So, and then there are even McCarthy supporters who say, no, we don't need stimulus. We don't need handouts is what some people say, right? I mean, we even heard some callers come in. And sometimes when we get these callers, it's, I gotta do the private course live stream. Okay. But anyway, yeah. So we heard Pelosi talk. We heard McCarthy talk. In between my Pelosi and McCarthy talk, by the way, I talked about the PPP. Go check that out. It's 9:00 in a minute, and I got to do the course member live stream. So if you're in the courses, which you could join via the link down below, you could join me there. But otherwise, I got to go because I got to be there in like 30 seconds. Okay. See you. Bye. Thanks.